Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to Breakfast in the Class. Breakfast in the Class today is dedicated for the continued health of Rabbani Chana Farchi Chana Bat Fega, and as well the Refuah Shema Rabbi Eli Abadi Eliyahu Shimon Mazal Fortuné. Dedicated loving memory of Nishmat Rivka Bat Reuven ve'Esther Ambelu Alea Shalom on her Askara. Sponsored by her son Ben Zion Elias. Also sponsored by Esther and Joey Jerome. Dedicated in honor of their new granddaughter. Congratulations. And finally sponsored by David Yash in honor of you and your unwavering commitment to doing good for the state of Israel and for others around you during these challenging times today and every day. Hazaku Baruch. We also have a long-time listener, second-time attender, Donnie Heidman. Hazaku Baruch. It's always wonderful when someone crosses the divide from listening online to coming in person to the class. We welcome everybody to come and join us, whoever would like, for breakfast in the class. It's such a special thing. Let's begin. Eliezer goes down to the well. He sees Rivka at the well. He makes this deal with Hashem. Shh. And what's the deal with God? Mechila. Mechila. Thank you. He goes down to the well. He makes a deal with God. And what's the deal that he makes with God? Please Hashem, I'm on a holy mission. My mission is to find a wife for Yitzhak Avinu. Avraham made me swear I would do it correctly. I'm doing everything I can. Hashem, but there's no way for me to know if it's the right person or the wrong person. So God, I need to make a deal with you. And what's my deal? We're going to have a code, you and me. What's the code? I'm going to ask, can someone feed me, give me a drink? And the person that says, I'm going to give you to drink and also your camels, ota ochachta. She's the one. Okay? Now I have a question. Why is it that Eliezer makes this deal with God? Avram asked Eliezer to go find a woman for him. Do we find any other time up until now in the Torah where someone says, you know what, I need to find a wife? Hashem, the first person I say, I like pizza too. And they respond and they say back to me too, with Parmesan. That's the girl. Does anyone else make such a condition? Mechila. Shom'im achshav po et kol milah ala zeh. Please. Thank you. So my friends, what is going on? What is this deal Eliezer is making? Why was it necessary? Any person that thinks about it will recognize that Eliezer is saying, I don't trust myself. I don't know. Maybe someone's going to come across as being perfect. Maybe they'll come across as being genuine. Maybe they'll come across as being a tzaddiket. And really, it's a scam. So what do I want, Hashem? I want you to intervene on behalf of Avraham Avinu, on behalf of Yitzchak Avinu. You're going to know who's the right one and who's not the right one, who has the right heart and who doesn't. Hashem, I'm leaving it in your hands. That's what Eliezer does. Is that clear? The question, my friends, is if you notice what goes on later on in the parasha. You see, as soon as she says the magic words and she feeds him and the camels the water to drink, what does he do? V'ha'ish mishta'eh la macharish ladat. He wants to know, did God make me successful or not? Finally, after everyone drinks, says the pasuk, Vayikach ha'ish nezem zahav. He takes a gold ring, nose ring, beka mishkalo, very heavy, ushne tzimidim al yadea, and two bracelets on her hand, asara zahav mishkalam, also very heavy, golden bracelets. He gives her these beautiful gifts, and he asks her, whose daughter are you? Tell me, do you have a place for us to sleep? So what does she say? Of course, we have a place for you to sleep. That's the story so far. However, Eliezer is overjoyed. He says, wow, Baruch Hashem, Elokei Adoni Avraham, Asher lo azav hasdo v'amito. Look, he guided me right to the brother of Avraham. The girl runs home and she comes back. Uli Rivka achu shmo Lavan. Rivka has a brother and his name is Lavan. Vayaratz Lavan el ha'ish achutza el ha'ayin. He runs out to the well. And as soon as he sees the golden jewelry that Eliezer gave Rivka. This is what he said to me. And he comes with the most beautiful approach. Bo beruch Amonai. Please come. The one who's blessed to God. Lama ta'amod bachutz. Why are you standing outside? We see in Lavan a person who's so welcoming. A person, Lavan, who's mentioning Hashem's name. Bo beruch Amonai. Well, it sounds like a very religious guy, right? Let it, Bo beruch Amonai, come to the house. Why are you standing outside? I emptied out Piniti Habayit Umakom Legmalim, a place for the camels. Guys, listen carefully. He says, I cleared out a place for you. Umakom Legmalim. What does that sound like? And a place for the camels. It sounds like Lavan is doing Achnasat Orchim exactly like his sister Rivka. And yet, the Torah tells us that Lavan was exactly the opposite. And how do you know already that Lavan is rotten? It sounds very clear that Lavan's a good guy. Mentioning the name of Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. How many times you hear someone say, Baruch Hashem, then they lie to you in business? Oh, Be'ezat Hashem, the guy's a crook. Right? That's what's going on over here. How do you know that? The Pasuk says, Vayihi kirot et hanezem ve'et hatzimadim. As soon as he saw the gold, what happened? Al yidei achoto, he comes running outside. He becomes the most religious guy ever. There are times, I have a guy come to me, Rabbi, I'm doing this deal. Maybe you have some people from your shul you could speak to invest with me. Maybe you could get some of your guys to put some money into my project, to invest in this, to invest in that. And you don't know, Baruch Hashem, Bezrat Hashem, Bli Ayin Hara, Bili Neder, saying every possible, Hebrew word he could think of. Got people tell you in Israel sometimes they try to get you to eat kosher. You ever noticed that? They tell you, Hakol po, it's milk. They're giving you a pizza. They tell you, Ze glat kasher. Po, glat kosher. Lo rak ze bagatz. The guy told me once, Badatz is a very good hechsher. Bagatz is the Supreme Court of the State of Israel. Ze Bagatz, Badatz, ken, Badatz. It's sometimes people they want to say anything to get you to do or to get you to trust them. So what are we seeing over here? Lavan doubles down on all the religious stuff, on the mitzvot, on everything. But really, the pasuk says, what is he looking for? When did he switch? When he saw the gold. My friends, I think that the pasuk is teaching us a very deep truth. And that truth is that sometimes the biggest crooked people are the person that calls himself Lavan. Our rabbis tell us that Lavan was the ultimate trickster. He was the ultimate scam artist. When Yaakov comes to Lavan later on, right, when he tries to marry his daughters, Hechlif et maskurti aseret monim. 10 times I said this, I went right, the guy went left. 10 times the guy tried to cheat me in business. And his name is Lavan, his name is white, like he's very pure. Our rabbis tell us that Lavan's trick was in trying to make himself seem Lavan. I want to share with you, we have another example of this. If you go back to the beginning of time, we find the first person who tried to lay down a scam and lie. It's not really a person. What was the first lie in the Torah? The snake. The snake says, oh, don't you know, God is just trying to keep you out of the God business. If you guys eat from the tree, you're going to be gods just like him. He wants to be the only one. So that's why he's doing it. Nothing's going to happen to you if you eat from the tree of knowledge. That's what the snake says, correct? Our rabbis tell us that the pasuk says, "V'hanachash haya arum mikol chayat hasadeh." He was more cunning and filled with trickery than any of the other animals in all of the field. And the rabbis point out that it's fascinating that the word for arum, which means cunning, is also the word for arom, which means naked. And they ask, how could it be that a person who's full of trickery and is full of cunning and is trying to scam you the whole time, why would you call the guy naked? Naked is a person who's not covered anything. You see everything exactly as it is. And the answer to this question is the same answer as Lavan. The ultimate scam is when a person presents themselves as white, clean, pure. A person presents themselves as being naked. I have nothing to hide. This is me, exactly as I am. The Nachash, his greatest trick was in pretending that he had no tricks. When a magician wants to show you that they pulled something out of nowhere, they want to show you it's not up their sleeve. So they take off their jacket and they're wearing short sleeves. Look, no sleeves. I'm not hiding anything. What do you know for sure if a guy tells you he's not hiding anything? He's hiding something. My friends, emet is such a beautiful quality. Being honest with people is such a beautiful and a rare quality. Being authentic, being genuine. You have people who, when they present themselves, it's as if they can do no wrong. Beware of a person who has no faults, who doesn't admit any mistake, who pretends that they are Lavan and Arom, naked, they don't need to hide anything. But more importantly, my friends, I want to share with you something that shook me a little bit. There was a man who once walked into to a great rabbi. And he asked the rabbi, I don't understand, he's not Jewish. He starts asking him a question about the Torah and about the Avot. And the rabbi didn't give him an answer. So when he left, the student asked him, Rebbe, why didn't you give him an answer? And he said, look, I could try and explain to this guy until the cows come home. But a person who doesn't live with Torah, he's not Jewish. He lives in the world of a bar, of a sports club, of the Yankee games. That's his whole life. He doesn't know about prayer. He doesn't know about extreme acts of chesed. How am I going to explain to this non-Jewish person the soul of not only a Jew, of one of our greatest tzaddikim? What does someone who's not Jewish understand about being Jewish? That's what he said. A little while later, the rabbi calls his student back and he says, you know, when I spoke the other day, I spoke incorrectly. I said, what does a non-Jewish person know about the soul of a Jew? He said, but I spoke incorrectly. He says, because that's not entirely accurate. What I really should have said is, what does a Jew know about another Jew's soul? You see a guy, you think he's a regular guy, but behind closed doors, what this person is and what this person does, unbelievable. What does a Jew know about another Jew's soul? A little while later, he sees a student again. What does he do? He calls the student over. He says, I misspoke. I said it wrong. First he said, what does a non-Jew know from a Jewish soul? It's wrong. What does a Jew know from another Jew's soul? Then he said, I got it wrong. He says, I finally got it right. He says, you know what the line is? What does a Jew know about his own soul? You don't recognize how much power, how much goodness, how much kindness, how much forgiveness, how much spirituality, how much holiness lies inside of your own neshama. You don't realize. And I think, my friends, sometimes the reason why we're not realizing our power, we're not realizing who we are and what we're capable of, and listen carefully because I'm saying something that is very delicate, is because we're not being honest with ourselves. When a person is running around and likes to present themselves in the best possible light to everybody, I did this, I did that, I'm perfect, you know how much I learn, you know how much tzedakah I give, I always go to shul, I'm very connected, my Jewish identity very strong, I have a good Jewish life. That's how we present ourselves. then who we are is not an accurate portrayal of who we are. And listen carefully. And the irony is that in trying to present ourselves better to everyone in the world, sometimes we also fool ourselves. What does a Jew know about his own soul? When a person is capable of calling out the good things that he does when he needs to, keeping it privately with humility as well, but also recognizing he has areas to grow. Yesterday I was in a class and someone said, Rabbi, my biggest problem is being patient. That's what she said. My biggest problem is being patient in front of a group of people. Owning and understanding what you're doing wrong allows the person to have a real-time, accurate assessment of who they are. And if you're playing games with understanding yourself with your faults, you're also going to play games when you try and understand yourself with your advantages and with your strengths. If you could admit that you do some things wrong, you know what else you could admit? That what you're doing right is not a fraction of what you could be doing right. I need to drill that home. A person who has the courage to say, I could do better because I'm not doing everything right, is a person who recognizes that in the things that they're doing right, there's more headspace, headroom, there's more ability to grow bigger. But a person who's perfect on their negative stuff, by definition, is also perfect on their positive stuff. So there's no aim to grow because you already believe that, you know what? If only everyone in the world was as good as me, we would be in a great place right now. My friends, that's what we're learning over here in the Pasuk. You have a guy who says Baruch Hashem. You have a guy who empties the house not only for Eliezer, but even for his camels. He sounds amazing. He even sounds like Rivka Imenu. She said not only for you, but also for your camels. Except, says the Pasuk, except. When did he say that? He said that after he saw the gold. He saw what his sister got for what she said. So what does he do? He says exactly what she said. What she said was pure. What he said was driven by money. I had a guy once, came to me, he goes, Rabbi, there's someone from your shul. What's it called? There's someone from your synagogue. He works in apparel. I also work in apparel. He says, tell me a little bit about him. I said, what do you mean, tell you a little bit about him? He says, look, I want to make a meeting with the guy. He says, but in the meeting, I want to know what to talk about to make him like me as a person. I was like, well, my first piece of advice is not to bring up this conversation with him where you asked someone what you should say so he should like you as a person. Yeah, do you understand? It's like the ultimate Lavan moment. I will be whatever you want me to be. You want me to like the Yankees? I like the Yankees. You want me to like the Mets? Great, I'm a Mets fan. You want me to be more religious? Perfect. Less religious? I'll bring a pork sandwich. I won't eat it because I don't want to do that, but I'll bring it. Do you understand? What are you willing to sell who you are for? What is your price to not be you? The most important thing in this world is to be able to genuinely have an accurate sense of self internally and an accurate sense of self externally. The interesting thing is, though, that it doesn't always work in that order. You'd think that what you broadcast is who you are, but oftentimes it works the other way around. What you're broadcasting out actually becomes the narrative that you have to play up to in your insides. My friends, this Lavan that starts this little bit over here by saying the most wonderful things. What does he say? You, your camels, Haknasat Orchim, the greatest act of chesed. By the end of the chapter, What do we find out about Lavan? What do we find out? Sorry, what specifically? Do you remember?
Yeah, he actually wants her not to go and to wait some time.
There's something worse than that before. In the beginning, when they invite him in for the meal, so Betuel is there, Lavan's father, Rivka's father, and Lavan, and they're serving him. But suddenly, the only person talking to Eliezer is Lavan. And our Chachamim explained to us what happened. They poisoned Eliezer's food. And what happened when they set out the plates? The malach caused that the plates got mixed up, and the food that was poisoned for Eliezer, what happened? Got shifted, and who ate it in the end? Betuel. So now that's why the only person talking over here is Lavan, because Betuel's already dead. My friends, how do we go in one chapter from a guy who says, no, there's room in the heart, there's room in the home, to the guy who's trying to poison you? You know what the answer is? Very simple. How did we start? Vayar and Lavan saw. Vayhi kirot et hanezim ve'et atzmidim. His primary motivation was the money, was the gold. The same way that could allow him to be someone more generous and more full of kindness. If that's ultimately what motivates you, eventually Lavan says, you know something? There's an even better way to get more money. I could take it all if I just kill the guy. And in one chapter, he moves from Mr. Hachnasat Orchim to Mr. Horeg Orchim. My friends, when you start letting yourself down because you're willing to make a dubious decision for any side motivation, money, power, ego, don't make a difference what. You head down a slope where first you make the tiniest little thing and you give it away, and then you make another mistake and you give it away, until eventually there's nothing left from your moral character whatsoever. So ask yourself, at the beginning of the food chain, what is the most important motivator in your life? What is the thing that when you see that, that's what motivates you to act? For Lavan, it's gold, and then what happens? We already know. He becomes the ultimate liar. He'll do anything, he'll hurt anyone, he'll sell his own daughters for $1. That's Lavan. But my friends, what if the primary motivator was something else? Was doing the right thing? Was being able to put your head on the pillow at night and know that today I lived an honest day. I saw yesterday something. They asked a bunch of different people, rabbis, community leaders, what did their mama used to tell them? What was the best piece of advice they used to get from their mom? So I was down there somewhere along the line, and they quoted me as saying, choose your friends wisely. I remember my mom used to tell me, to pick good friends. Who's this guy? Is he a good person? You're hanging out with him? He's a good guy? But I want to share with you not my own advice that I got, but the advice that Leon Goldenberg's mother gave him. A big community guy, a big charitable philanthropist, wonderful man. What did Leon Goldenberg's mother tell him? She used to ask him when he would come home at the end of the day, did you do parnasah today? Did you make parnasah? You went out, you worked? And he would say yes. And then she would say, were you honest in your dealings today? That was what his mother would ask him when he would come home every day. If that's your goal, then when the time comes and it's a question of selling your soul for $1, for a promotion, to look good in someone's eyes, you're not for sale. I think that's a beautiful lesson here we're learning from Lavan, how not to be, how not to develop into the person that we hope we would become. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen.